My name is Maren Whitaker, 35, and I've spent 8 years teaching my daughter Nyla that her body is hers. At a crowded family party last spring, I opened a bathroom door and found Nyla on the tile, shoulders shaking, head shaved to the scalp, while my younger sister Brielle stood there filming and laughing. Relax, it's a joke. If you've ever been forced to smile while someone you trusted crossed a line, stay with me. I'll show you exactly how I made sure it never happened again. That morning started like any other family celebration. Nyla bounced around our kitchen wearing her favorite yellow dress, excited to show off the intricate braids we'd spent 2 hours perfecting the night before. Blue thread woven through each strand, just like the princess in her favorite library book. "Grandpa's going to love them," she said, spinning so the braids danced around her shoulders. I should have trusted my gut when Aunt Lorraine pulled me aside on the porch. "Heads up," she whispered, pressing a glass of lemonade into my hands. "Brielle's been filming prank videos. She calls it family realism." Lorraine wasn't one for drama. If she warned me, there was fire behind the smoke. Inside, the house buzzed with typical chaos. Kids running between rooms, adults clustered around the kitchen island, someone's playlist competing with conversation. Brielle swept in fashionably late with Trevor, her husband glued to his phone like always. As she hugged me, I caught sight of something heavy and rectangular sliding in her tote bag. Not a purse. Something with weight. "Love what you did with Nyla's hair," she said, but her smile didn't reach her eyes. "So bold." That word, bold, coming from Brielle felt like a warning I didn't know how to read yet. The engagement party flowed exactly like every Whitaker gathering. Organized chaos with Mom orchestrating from the kitchen like a conductor with a wooden spoon. Corinne floated past in her signature floral dress, already scanning for her next task. "Maren, good you're here," she said without looking directly at me. Brielle ordered a designer cake. "Try not to cut it crooked this time." A joke, maybe. With Mom, everything lived in that gray space between humor and criticism. Brielle made her rounds, phone constantly recording. She filmed the kids playing tag in the backyard, captured Uncle Jim's terrible joke about his golf swing, even documented cousin Sarah cutting vegetables. "Content opportunities everywhere," she announced to anyone listening. But something felt off about the way she lingered around children. She'd point her camera at them without asking, making them freeze mid-laugh or look away uncomfortable. When little Marcus asked her to stop, she just giggled. "You're going to be famous, buddy." I noticed Jax and Poppy, Brielle's twins, whispering in corners and stealing glances at Nyla. Every time my daughter walked past, they'd nudge each other and point at her braids. Not admiration, something else. Something that made my stomach tighten. "She thinks she's so special," I heard Poppy mutter to her brother. Corinne appeared beside me with her radar for small tensions. "Those braids really are attention-grabbing," she said, watching Nyla help Grandpa Walter arrange flowers. "Some might call them a bit much for a family party." There it was again. That word wrapped in concern, but sharp underneath. Trevor seemed more nervous than usual, avoiding eye contact and jumping whenever anyone approached. When I asked if he'd seen the kids lately, his response came too quick. "Upstairs." Brielle's supervising. Supervising. The word stuck in my throat like something solid. The afternoon rolled on with typical family rhythm. Arguments over politics at the adult table, cake negotiations with sugar-high kids, the usual dance of personalities trying not to step on each other. But I couldn't shake the feeling that everyone was performing just slightly off-key. Brielle kept filming everything, narrating like she was creating some documentary. "Family dynamics in real time," she'd say, zooming in on whoever looked most uncomfortable. When Nyla disappeared from the backyard chaos, I gave it 10 minutes before starting my search. Kids wandered off at parties, normal behavior. But 15 minutes stretched into 20, and that familiar mother alarm started ringing in my chest. The one that said something was wrong. I started my search casually, kitchen first, then the living room where cousins sprawled across couches with their phones.
Nonila.
The basement game room held 3 boys arguing over a video controller, but my daughter wasn't among them. "Have you seen Nyla?" I asked my nephew Jake. He shrugged without looking up from his screen. "Maybe upstairs?" The word upstairs hit different when your child has been missing for 20 minutes. I climbed the steps 2 at a time, checking bedrooms systematically. Empty. 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 Then I heard it, a sound that made my blood freeze. Electric buzzing. Like a trimmer or clippers. It came from the hallway bathroom, followed by a muffled sob that I recognized instantly. That particular cry Nyla made when she was trying to be brave, but failing. "Sweetheart." I called through the door. Silence stretched like a held breath. Then my daughter's voice, small and shaky. "Mom, don't come in." That's when I heard Brielle's laugh. Not her regular laugh. This one had an edge. Excited and cruel. Oh my God, look at her face. This is content gold. My hand found the doorknob before my brain caught up. Some part of me already knew what I'd find, but knowing and seeing are different animals entirely. I pushed the door open. Brielle stood behind my daughter with a pair of battery-powered clippers in one hand and her phone in the other, recording everything. Nyla sat on the closed toilet seat, tears streaming down her cheeks, while chunks of her beautiful braids lay scattered across the bathroom tiles like discarded pieces of art. Half of Nyla's head was already buzzed down to the scalp. "It's just hair," Brielle said, not lowering her phone. She was acting like a little princess. "This is a reality check." Poppy stood frozen in the corner, hands pressed against her mouth, eyes wide with a kind of horror that comes when you realize you're watching something terrible happen and can't stop it. Nyla looked at me with an expression that broke something fundamental in my chest. Her eyes asked a question no 8-year-old should have to ask. Is this real? Is this happening to me? The clippers buzzed again as Brielle moved them toward the remaining braids. That's when time slammed back into normal speed. I lunged forward and grabbed the clippers from Brielle's hand, the plastic warm and vibrating in my palm like something alive and dangerous. "What the hell is wrong with you?" The words came out quiet, which somehow made them more terrifying than if I'd screamed. Brielle blinked at me like I was overreacting to spilled milk. The bathroom felt smaller with 3 adults and 2 children crammed inside, but the space around my daughter seemed to expand, like trauma creates its own atmosphere. Nyla's remaining braids hung limp on one side of her head, the blue thread we'd woven together, now looking like evidence of something precious destroyed. "Give me back my clippers," Brielle said, still holding her phone up. I wasn't finished. I stared at her like she was speaking another language. "You're assaulting my child. Don't be dramatic. It's just a haircut." Brielle angled her phone to capture my reaction. She needed to learn that not everything is about looking perfect all the time. I wrapped a towel around Nyla's shoulders and pulled her close. She trembled against me, making that hiccuping sound kids make when they've cried so hard they forget how to breathe normally. "Did you think about asking her permission?" I asked, my voice deadly calm. "Permission?" Brielle laughed. "She's 8. Kids don't get to make every decision about their appearance." "She's not your kid." The hallway filled with footsteps, adults drawn by the commotion. Walter appeared first, his face going white when he saw the scattered braids. Then Lorraine, whose sharp intake of breath cut through the air like a blade. Corinne pushed past them both, took one look at the scene, and somehow made it worse. "If you taught her some humility," she said, staring at Nyla's half-shaved head, "your sister wouldn't have felt the need to correct the behavior." Those words hit me like a physical blow. My own mother, looking at her granddaughter's tears and traumatized expression, and finding fault with the victim. "Correct what behavior?" I asked. "The vanity. The preening. Acting like she's better than the other children because of some elaborate hairstyle." Nyla made a sound, part sob, part gasp, and tried to hide her face in the towel. My 8-year-old daughter was learning in real time that the adults who were supposed to protect her could choose not to. "She's proud of her braids because we made them together," I said. "That's not vanity. That's joy." Brielle moved closer with her phone. "This is exactly what I'm talking about. You've created a little narcissist who thinks she deserves special treatment. And you've created content by traumatizing a child. Content that teaches valuable lessons about." I stepped between Brielle and Nyla, blocking the camera's view. "Turn off the phone. This is my documentation. Family accountability series. People need to see what happens when parents turn off the phone." Something in my voice made her thumb hover over the screen, but she didn't stop recording. Trevor finally appeared in the doorway, took one look at his wife filming our traumatized daughter, and something shifted in his expression. Not shock, recognition. Like he'd known this moment was coming and had been dreading it. "Brielle," he said quietly. "Stop." "Stop what?" "Teaching important lessons about." "Stop recording my granddaughter's pain," Walter said, his voice carrying authority I'd rarely heard from him. "Right now." Brielle looked around the room like she was noticing the audience for the first time. Every adult face showed the same expression, horror mixed with dawning understanding that they were witnessing something unforgivable. "You're all overreacting," she said, but finally lowered the phone. "It's going to grow back." I gathered Nyla closer and stood up. We're leaving. Don't make a scene over a haircut, Corinne said. I'm not making a scene. I'm removing my daughter from people who think her pain is entertainment. The hallway became a theater with cousins peering around corners and adults positioning themselves like they were choosing sides for a playground fight. But this wasn't a game. This was my daughter's safety. We were supposed to cut the cake in 5 minutes, Corinne announced, as if schedule adherence could somehow normalize what had just happened. Cut your own cake, I said, helping Nyla stand on unsteady legs. Brielle stepped into our path, phone back up and recording. We're doing a family accountability series, she said to her camera. Sometimes love looks like tough lessons. Sometimes assault looks like a felony, I replied. Her recording hand wavered. Assault? Please. I gave her a haircut. You held down my child and shaved her head while she cried and begged you to stop. What would you call that? The cousins in the hallway shifted uncomfortably. Even they could hear the difference between a prank and something darker. I call it parenting the child you're too permissive to handle, Brielle shot back. That's when Walter stepped forward. My father, who had spent my entire childhood avoiding conflict and letting mom set the family rules, planted himself between Brielle and the door. Get out of my daughter's way, he said. The hallway went quiet. 30 years of family dynamics shifted in that single sentence. Since when do you grow a spine? Brielle asked. Since I watched you terrorize my granddaughter for internet points. Corinne moved to Walter's side, but not to support him. Don't let them turn this into something it's not. Brielle was correcting behavior that. Mom, I said, and my voice cracked on the word. Look at her. Nyla stood wrapped in the towel, hair destroyed, face streaked with tears, looking like a war refugee. If my mother really looked, she'd have to choose between her daughters. And we both knew which one she'd pick. Children recover from disappointment, Corinne said. Character building isn't always comfortable. There it was. The choice made. Lorraine appeared with Nyla's jacket and my purse. Car's warming up, she said quietly, then knelt down to Nyla's eye level. You did nothing wrong, sweetheart. Nothing. Trevor finally found his voice. Brielle, we need to go. We're not done here, she said, still recording. Yes, we are, I said, lifting Nyla into my arms. We're done with all of this. As we walked toward the stairs, Corinne called after us. If you leave over this nonsense, don't expect to come back. I paused on the top step and turned around. Every face in that hallway told a story. Some showed shame, others defiance, a few registered genuine shock. But only Walter looked like he understood that something irreparable had just broken. Don't worry, I said. We won't. The last thing I heard was Brielle explaining to her phone. Sometimes family members overreact to necessary interventions. The car felt like a sanctuary after the chaos of that hallway. I buckled Nyla into her seat and pulled a cotton beanie over her damaged hair, my hands shaking just enough that it took 3 tries to get it positioned right. Did I do something wrong? She asked in a voice barely above a whisper. The question shattered what was left of my composure. Baby, no. You did absolutely nothing wrong. Lorraine appeared at my window with a tote bag. Snacks and juice boxes, she said, pressing it into my hands. I'll call you tomorrow. She leaned into the back seat. Nyla, honey, you are safe with your mama. Remember that, okay? Nyla nodded, but her eyes held that glassy look kids get when their world stops making sense. As I backed out of the driveway, Corinne appeared on the porch, arms crossed, looking like a woman who'd won a battle she didn't realize had cost her the war. At home, I ran a bath with extra bubbles and let Nyla soak while I sat on the bathroom floor with my laptop, documenting everything before memory could soften the edges. The scattered braids on the tiles. Brielle's words. Corinne's blame. The way Poppy looked when she realized she was part of something cruel. I called Mira Patel, a family attorney I'd met at a school function. Her voice sharpened when I described what happened. This is battery against a minor, she said. Clear cut. We're filing a police report first thing Monday, and I'm recommending a restraining order. Next call, Dr. Anika Perez, a child psychologist Nyla had seen briefly after her dad and I divorced. Tonight is damage control, Dr. Perez said. No mirrors, comfort routine, let her lead conversations. Tomorrow, bring her in. We need to give her language for what happened before her brain files this under things I can't talk about. My phone buzzed with a text from Darius, Nyla's father. Lorraine told me what happened. Flying back tonight. We'll handle this together. Despite everything between us, I believed him. Darius might not have been a great husband, but he was a fierce father. I made one final call to my own therapist's emergency line and left a message. I need help figuring out how to rebuild my daughter's sense of safety when her own family destroyed it. Then I climbed into bed next to Nyla and held her while she slept, making silent promises about boundaries and protection and never letting anyone treat her as entertainment again. The real work was just beginning. Monday morning brought 2 victories and 1 nightmare. Victory 1. The police officer who took our report had a daughter Nyla's age. He photographed the uneven patches on her scalp, documented Brielle's filmed confession, and assigned a case number that made everything feel official and real. We see this kind of thing with hazing sometimes, he said, shaking his head. But family members targeting kids? That's new territory. Victory 2. Dr. Perez worked magic with Nyla in ways I couldn't. They drew pictures together, Nyla sketching a house surrounded by a tall blue fence. That's our house, she explained, and the fence has electricity. You can only come in if we buzz you first. The nightmare arrived at 3 p.m. with a knock that sounded too official for comfort. 2 women stood on my porch, one older with tired eyes, one younger with a clipboard. Both wore badges that made my stomach drop. Child Protective Services, the older woman said. We received a report alleging that you shaved your daughter's head as punishment for behavioral issues. The words hit like ice water. What? We need to speak with your daughter and assess the home environment. My brain scrambled to process this. Someone had called CPS. Someone had flipped the story, making me the abuser and Brielle the concerned family member who reported suspected child abuse. There's been a mistake, I said, stepping back to let them in. My daughter was assaulted by my sister. I have a police report number. The younger caseworker's pen moved across her forms. We're required to investigate all reports involving potential harm to minors. They interviewed Nyla gently but thoroughly. She told them about the party, about waking up in the bathroom with Aunt Brielle holding clippers, about the phone recording everything. Her voice stayed steady, Dr. Perez's work already showing results. I provided documentation. The police report, photos of Nyla's scalp, witness statements from Lorraine and Walter. Even Trevor had emailed a statement describing Brielle's behavior. The older caseworker studied the evidence, her expression shifting from suspicion to understanding. This paints a very different picture than what was reported to us. Who made the report? I asked. We can't disclose the reporter's identity, but... She glanced at her partner. Let's just say the details in their statement don't align with what we're seeing here. After they left, I called Mira. Brielle weaponized CPS, I said. Smart move, actually. Vicious, but smart. Mira's voice carried grudging respect for the strategy. She reported you before you could establish your narrative. Makes you look vindictive if you file complaints afterward. Except I already filed a police report, which is why her plan failed. Your documentation timeline proves you're the victim, not the perpetrator. That evening, Darius arrived with takeout and righteous anger. I want to press charges myself, he said, studying the photos of Nyla's scalp. This is assault on our child. Already in motion, I said. But she's not done fighting dirty. I was right. At 11 p.m., my phone buzzed with notifications. Brielle had posted the bathroom video to 3 different platforms, edited to make me look hysterical and her look reasonable. The caption read, "When family interventions go wrong. Some parents can't handle tough love." The war was just beginning. Waking up to your child's trauma going viral feels like drowning in reverse. Instead of water filling your lungs, it's rage and helplessness and the sick understanding that strangers are now judging your family's worst moment. By Tuesday morning, Brielle's video had spread across Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. 3 different prank compilation accounts had picked it up, each adding their own commentary about helicopter parenting and kids who need reality checks. The edited version was masterful in its cruelty. It started with Nyla crying, cut to me bursting through the door, aggressively, showed Brielle looking calm and reasonable while explaining her intervention, then ended with my overreaction to what appeared to be normal family conflict. Comments flooded in by the hundreds. Finally, someone teaching kids they're not special snowflakes. That mother is insane. Hair grows back. Poor aunt just trying to humble a spoiled brat. But for every cruel comment, there were others. This is child abuse. Period. Who films a kid crying and calls it content? The mom's protecting her daughter. Good for her. Mira went into overdrive, firing off copyright takedown notices to every platform. Most will comply within 48 hours, she said. But the internet is like herpes. Once something's out there, it flares up randomly forever. Lorraine called with intelligence from behind enemy lines. Corinne's been texting everyone, spinning this as you losing perspective over a simple haircut. She's trying to control the family narrative. Walter's text arrived an hour later. I didn't know she posted the video. Working to get it removed. So sorry. But the damage was spreading beyond our family. Parents at Nyla's school gave me strange looks during pickup. The grocery store cashier asked if I was that mom from the video. Even my book club leader suggested I take some time before returning to meetings. That afternoon brought the break we needed, delivered in the most unexpected package. My doorbell rang, and I found a USB drive taped to my front door with a note. Check your security camera from 2 nights before the party. A concerned neighbor. I'd forgotten about the doorbell camera we'd installed to catch package thieves. Heart pounding, I pulled up the archived footage from Friday night. The timestamp showed 10:47 p.m. Brielle's car in my driveway. She sat on my porch steps, whispering into her phone. The audio was faint, but clear enough. The clippers came today. Wireless ones. Way quieter than salon equipment. A voice from her phone, Corinne's voice. It needs to be quick. No blood, obviously. We want shock value, not injury. Brielle giggled. I've got the whole thing planned. Nyla's so proud of those ridiculous braids. Taking them down will be perfect content. Make sure you film her reaction, Corinne said. The crying will get views. My hands shook as I saved the file. This wasn't a spontaneous prank gone wrong. This was premeditated assault planned by my sister and approved by my mother, targeting my 8-year-old daughter for social media content. I called Mira immediately. This changes everything, she said after watching the footage. Premeditation takes this from simple battery to aggravated assault. And if they plan to profit from the video, we can add exploitation of a minor. Can we use this to get the videos taken down faster? Better. We can use this to destroy Brielle's credibility completely. When people realize she planned to traumatize a child for clicks, the narrative flips. That evening, I made a decision that felt both terrifying and necessary. I created my own video response, sitting in my living room while Nyla played quietly in the background. My name is Maren Whitaker, I said to the camera. 3 days ago, my sister assaulted my daughter and posted it online for entertainment. Today, I'm showing you the planning conversation she had with my mother 2 nights before the attack. I played the security footage, then looked directly into the lens. If you shared her video thinking it was a harmless prank, you helped distribute child abuse content. If you're a parent watching this, ask yourself, what would you do if someone did this to your child? Within 6 hours, my response video had more views than Brielle's original post. The phone call from Mira came while I was making Nyla's breakfast, trying to maintain normal routines in our increasingly abnormal world. Sit down, she said, which is never how lawyers start conversations with good news. What did you find? Remember how I said we should check if Brielle had any financial motives beyond just getting views?
He said.
Yeah. Well, we found something. Something big. Papers rustled on her end. 2 months ago, someone opened a personal loan in your name. $25,000. The spoon I was holding clattered against Nyla's cereal bowl. That's impossible. I know you didn't. The loan application was filed online using your social security number and employment information, but the money was deposited into an account belonging to Creative Content Solutions, LLC. My stomach dropped. Let me guess. That's Brielle's company. Registered 6 weeks before the loan application. Your mother is listed as co-owner. The kitchen felt like it was spinning. My own family had stolen my identity to fund Brielle's content creation business, then used my daughter as the content to pay it back. There's more, Mira continued. The LLC has been paying for equipment, editing software, even a social media management service. All funded by debt taken out in your name. So when Brielle planned to assault Nyla, she was gambling that the viral video would generate enough revenue to cover the loan payments. Your daughter's trauma was literally her business plan. I thought about Corinne's voice on the security footage, strategizing about shock value and getting views. Not a grandmother protecting family privacy, but a business partner calculating profit margins. What's our next step? I asked. Identity theft charges against both of them. This shows clear financial motive for the assault. They needed content that would go viral to save their failing business. That afternoon, I drove to the bank with a folder full of documentation. The loan officer, a woman about my age with kind eyes, went pale as I explained the situation. I've seen identity theft before, she said, but never tied to child abuse content. This is. She paused, searching for words. This is uniquely horrible. She flagged the account, froze all payments, and initiated fraud proceedings. The good news is we can reverse this completely. The bad news is it'll take months to clean up your credit. On the drive home, my phone rang. Corinne's number. Marin, we need to talk. Do we? This has gotten completely out of hand. You're destroying the family over a simple misunderstanding. A misunderstanding? I pulled over, hands shaking with rage. You helped plan an assault on my child and stole my identity to pay for it. That's not. We were trying to help Brielle get her business off the ground. Family supports family. By using my credit without permission? We fully intended to pay it back once the channel took off. There it was, the casual admission that my daughter's pain was their business investment. Mom, listen to me carefully. I'm pressing charges for identity theft. Against both of you. Silence stretched across the line. You can't be serious. Dead serious. You want to know what destroys families? Using your granddaughter's trauma to pay off stolen money. If you do this, there's no coming back from it. Good, I said and hung up. That evening, while Nyla drew pictures of houses with electric fences, I filled out affidavits detailing every fraudulent charge, every unauthorized transaction, every dollar stolen to fund the business that profited from my daughter's pain. Some bridges deserve to burn. The text came from a number I didn't recognize. This is Trevor. Can we meet? I need to tell you things. We arranged to meet at a coffee shop 20 minutes from my house, neutral territory where neither of us had history or connections. I found him hunched over a corner table, looking like a man who hadn't slept in days. Thank you for coming, he said as I sat down. I wasn't sure you would. I'm here for information, not reconciliation. He nodded, hands wrapped around a coffee cup he wasn't drinking. I moved out 3 days ago. Finally. He looked up, and I saw something I'd never seen in Trevor before, clarity. I should have left years ago. What changed? Watching what she did to Nyla. Watching her plan it. Watching her enjoy it. His voice cracked slightly. I have kids too, you know? Poppy came home that night and threw up from guilt. She keeps asking if she's going to jail for helping hurt Nyla. The image of 11-year-old Poppy, holding Nyla's shoulders while Brielle shaved her head, had haunted me for days. She was following her mother's orders. That's what I told the therapist I found for both kids. They're seeing someone who specializes in helping children process trauma they witnessed or participated in. This surprised me. Trevor taking action, making decisions, protecting his children. This wasn't the passive man I'd known for 8 years. I need to give you something, he said, sliding a USB drive across the table. It's from Brielle's computer. You went through her files? I lived there. Technically, half that computer was mine. He managed a weak smile. Besides, what's she going to do? Call the police? I pocketed the drive. What's on it? Everything. Her editing software organizes projects and folders by subject. There's one called Reset Nyla. It has planning documents, thumbnail sketches, even a draft description for the video post. My coffee turned to acid in my stomach. She made thumbnails? Mock-ups of your daughter crying with text overlays like "spoiled brat gets reality check" and "when kids need tough love." She spent hours perfecting them before the party. The premeditation kept getting worse. Not just planning to hurt Nyla, but planning exactly how to package and sell that pain to the internet. There's more, Trevor continued. Financial stuff. Spreadsheets projecting how much money different types of content would generate. Family drama videos were her highest projected earners. She calculated my daughter's worth in views, down to estimated ad revenue per 1,000 clicks. He rubbed his eyes. I knew she was obsessed with getting famous online, but I didn't realize she'd turned our family into a business model. Why didn't you stop her? The question hung between us like smoke. Trevor stared at his untouched coffee for a long moment. Because I spent 8 years learning that fighting Brielle was more exhausting than surviving her. And because. He looked up with eyes full of shame. Because I was relieved it was happening to someone else's kid instead of mine. The honesty was brutal and appreciated. I'm testifying against her, he said. Whatever legal proceedings come next, I'm on your side. What about your kids? They deserve to see what accountability looks like. Even when it's hard. Especially when it's hard. The children's salon looked nothing like the sterile place where Brielle had committed her crime. Bright murals of underwater scenes covered the walls, each sea creature smiling with gentle, closed mouths that somehow conveyed safety instead of threat. "What kind of haircut makes you feel powerful?" asked Maya, the stylist who specialized in helping kids recover from traumatic hair experiences. Nyla studied herself in the mirror, running her fingers over the uneven patches Brielle had left behind. "Something that looks like me, but stronger." Maya worked magic, transforming the damage into a pixie cut that framed Nyla's face like armor made of confidence. When she finished, Nyla turned her head side to side, watching light catch the clean lines. "It's perfect," she said, and for the first time in a week, her smile reached her eyes. At Dr. Perez's office, we practiced phrases that would protect Nyla if anyone tried to boundary cross again. "My body is not your project," she repeated, watching herself in the therapy room mirror. "No, and I'm telling my mom, I do not consent to filming." Each phrase rang clearer than the last, like tuning an instrument toward perfect pitch. That evening, we wrote new family rules and posted them on our refrigerator. We don't go places where our safety is treated as optional. We don't explain boundaries to people who enjoy crossing them. We document everything that feels wrong. We leave immediately when that warning voice says danger. We choose people who protect our peace. The house felt different with these words on display, lighter, like we'd finally given ourselves permission to prioritize safety over keeping peace. Darius started staying for dinner twice a week, not because we were reconciling romantically, but because Nyla needed to see her parents united in protecting her. We'd learned to co-parent through crisis, and surprisingly, we were better at it than we'd ever been at marriage. "I'm proud of how you handled this," he told me one evening after Nyla went to bed. "I didn't handle it. I survived it." Sometimes that's the same thing. Friends from school began reaching out, other parents who'd seen the viral videos and recognized truth when they saw it. Sarah Chun brought soup. Maria Rodriguez offered to drive Nyla to activities if I needed court time. Even quiet Mr. Ellis from down the street started waving when we walked past, a small gesture that felt like community support. Most surprising was the message from Dr. Martinez, a family therapist who'd seen our story online. "I work with families recovering from toxic dynamics. Pro bono for your situation if you're interested." Recovery, I learned, wasn't just about healing from what happened. It was about building systems to prevent it from happening again. We were building those systems one boundary at a time. Curran's final gambit came through a neighborhood Facebook group I rarely checked. Someone tagged me in a post that made my blood freeze. Heartbreaking to see a child punished for her mother's poor choices. Sometimes family secrets come out in the worst ways. Prayers for healing and truth. The post had 17 comments, all from women in our neighborhood speculating about what family secrets might mean. The implication was clear. Corinne was suggesting Nyla wasn't Darius's biological daughter, that my overreaction to the haircut incident stemmed from guilt about paternity fraud. It was masterful and vicious. Destroy my credibility by questioning Nyla's parentage, making me look like a woman who'd trap a man with a lie and then punish her daughter for the deception. I screenshot the post and sent it to Mira, my hands shaking with rage. "This is defamation," she replied immediately. "But more importantly, it's desperation. People don't deploy nuclear options unless conventional warfare is failing." Darius's response was swift and surgical. Within 2 hours, he'd posted on his own social media accounts photos of him holding newborn Nyla in the hospital, both of them asleep with matching foreheads. Another photo showed his child support payment app, with every transaction highlighted. 8 years of payments, never late, never contested. His caption was simple: "Some people spread lies when truth threatens them. We choose truth in this family. Always." The post went viral in our community faster than Brielle's original video had. Comments poured in from people who knew us, had seen Darius at school events, had watched him coach Nyla's soccer team. Anyone who knows this family knows how much Darius loves Nyla. Corinne Whitaker should be ashamed of herself. Imagine attacking your own granddaughter's legitimacy to win an argument. By evening, 3 neighbors had contacted me directly to apologize for engaging with the speculation. One mother whose daughter played with Nyla wrote, "I should have known better. You're both good parents dealing with an impossible situation." Corinne called that night, her voice tight with controlled fury. "Your ex-husband made me look like a liar." "You are a liar," I said calmly. "You suggested I committed paternity fraud to deflect from your identity theft and conspiracy to assault my daughter." "That's not what I meant." "Mom, stop. Just stop." The word mom felt strange in my mouth now, like calling someone by a name that no longer fit. Every time you think you've lost, you hurt Nyla more. Every single time. I'm trying to save this family. No, you're trying to win. And you're willing to destroy your granddaughter's reputation to do it. If you would just... I'm done, I said and meant it. Don't call me. Don't post about us. Don't contact Nyla. We're finished. You can't cut me out of her life. Watch me. I hung up and immediately blocked her number. Some conversations don't deserve continuation. The courthouse smelled like industrial cleaning solution and broken promises. I sat in the hallway outside family court with Mira, watching Brielle pace near the water fountain while her lawyer whispered urgently in her ear. She'd hired someone expensive, a woman in a perfect suit who specialized in defending social media personalities facing legal consequences for their content. The kind of lawyer who could make assault sound like artistic expression. Remember, Mira said quietly, this isn't about revenge. It's about protection. The judge needs to see that Nyla requires legal barriers between her and people who view her trauma as entertainment. When our case was called, we filed into a courtroom that felt too big for our family catastrophe. Judge Patricia Reeves, a woman in her 50s with steel gray hair, reviewed our documentation with the methodical attention of someone who'd seen every variation of human cruelty. Brielle's lawyer spoke first, painting her client as a misguided aunt who'd made a momentary error in judgment, while trying to teach her niece humility. She emphasized Brielle's lack of criminal history, her role as a mother herself, and her willingness to attend counseling. My client suffers from what we now recognize as content addiction, the lawyer explained. She became so focused on creating engaging material that she temporarily lost sight of appropriate boundaries. It was a carefully crafted narrative that almost made sense, if you ignored the planning, the identity theft, and the phone calls strategizing about maximizing Nyla's emotional distress for views. Mira's presentation was different. She played the security footage first, letting Brielle's own voice describe her premeditation. Then she showed the financial documents, the fraudulent loan, the business plan that required family trauma to generate revenue. This wasn't momentary poor judgment, Mira said. This was calculated exploitation of a child for financial gain, planned and executed by adults who viewed an 8-year-old's emotional well-being as acceptable collateral damage. Judge Reeves watched the bathroom video once, her expression growing harder with each second. When Brielle's laughter echoed through the courtroom speakers, that delighted giggle as she filmed Nyla's tears, the judge's jaw tightened visibly. Ms. Hayes, Judge Reeves said when the evidence concluded, help me understand how filming a child's distress while physically altering her appearance without consent constitutes anything other than assault and exploitation. Brielle's lawyer began another explanation about social media culture and family dynamics, but the judge cut her off. I've seen the planning conversations. I've reviewed the financial motive. I've watched your client laugh while an 8-year-old cried. Her voice carried the weight of absolute authority. This court finds clear and convincing evidence of intentional harm to a minor. The protective order was granted immediately, no contact with Nyla for 2 years minimum. Criminal charges would proceed through the district attorney's office, simple battery with enhancements for targeting a minor, identity theft, and conspiracy charges for Curran's involvement. Ms. Hayes, the judge continued, you'll complete 50 hours of community service with organizations that help children recover from trauma. Perhaps spending time with actual victims will help you understand the difference between content and cruelty. As we left the courthouse, Brielle stood outside making a video for her followers. The legal system doesn't understand modern family dynamics or content creation. Some people never learn. But at least now, she couldn't learn at my daughter's expense. Walter arrived on a Tuesday afternoon carrying 2 small potted plants, mint and rosemary, still in their thin nursery containers. Couldn't figure out how to repot them without killing them, he admitted, setting them on our porch steps. We planted them together in the backyard while Nyla taught the neighbor's cat to sit for treats. Walter worked quietly, his hands gentle with the roots, speaking only when the silence felt right for words. I let your mother set all the rules for 40 years, he said, patting soil around the mint plant. She was so sure about everything, and I was tired of thinking. Easier to let her decide who was right and who was wrong. I handed him the watering can. Why now? Because watching Nyla cry in that video made me realize I'd been hiding behind your mother's certainty instead of protecting my granddaughter. He looked over at Nyla, who was now drawing letters in the dirt with a stick. Started seeing a therapist. Every Thursday at 6. She told me something that stuck. You can't stop your wife from burning bridges, but You can stop handing her matches. This wasn't a movie redemption. No dramatic speeches or tearful embraces. Just an old man admitting he'd chosen comfort over courage and was trying to do better. He started small. Canceled the cable subscription so Corinne couldn't watch Brielle's videos on the big screen. Stopped answering her calls when she wanted to vent about the injustice of the court proceedings. Brought Nyla new art supplies and sat quietly while she drew. "Can we host Sunday dinner?" Nyla asked one evening, looking up from her homework. The idea felt revolutionary, family dinner without the family that had hurt us. We invited Lorraine, Mr. Ellis from down the block who fixed bikes for neighborhood kids, and the Rodriguez family whose daughter Sophia was Nyla's best friend. Nyla made place cards in careful block letters. At the end of the meal, she stood up with the seriousness of someone making an important announcement. "This is our electric fence," she said, gesturing around the table. Everyone nodded, even if they didn't fully understand the reference. Or maybe they did. Every adult there had their own version of choosing safety over obligation.
Dr.
Martinez, the therapist who'd offered pro bono sessions, helped us understand that family could be a verb instead of just a noun. Something you do actively, not something you're stuck with permanently. "You're teaching Nyla that love requires respect," she explained. "That's a gift that will protect her for the rest of her life." Protection, I'd learned, sometimes looked like saying no to people who demanded access to hurt you. 1 year later, Nyla asked to visit the botanical garden for the anniversary of what she now called the day I learned about boundaries. Her hair had grown into a shaggy bob that she wore with the confidence of someone who'd survived having her autonomy stolen and fought to get it back. We walked the paths between flowering plants while she ran her fingers over herb leaves, inhaling the scents. "This smells like the kitchen at Grandpa's house," she said, crushing rosemary between her fingers. Walter had become a weekly presence in our lives, not trying to replace what we'd lost, but building something new. He learned to make his mother's beef stew and left jars on our porch with notes. Enough for seconds. He taught Nyla card games and listened when she talked about school drama without trying to fix everything. The legal proceedings had concluded with mixed results. Brielle served her community service at a children's crisis center, though she spent most of her time posting about the learning experience on social media. The identity theft charges resulted in financial restitution and probation, but no jail time. Corinne never apologized. Instead, she moved to Florida to live with her sister, sending birthday cards to Nyla that we opened and read together before deciding whether they were safe to keep. "Some people can't change," Dr. Martinez had explained. "Your job isn't to fix them. It's to protect yourself and Nyla from the damage they cause." The viral videos had mostly faded from internet memory, though they occasionally resurfaced in compilation videos or discussion threads about family boundaries. Each time, I sent takedown requests, but I'd stopped losing sleep over digital ghosts. What mattered was sitting on a bench in the botanical garden watching my daughter plan her 9th birthday party, a small gathering with friends who'd earned the right to celebrate her growth. "I want to make invitation cards," she said, "with rules on them." "What kind of rules?" "Like, respect lives here. And no cameras unless you ask first. And if someone makes me uncomfortable, I can ask them to leave." These weren't the words of a traumatized child. They were the boundaries of someone who'd learned her own worth through surviving attempts to diminish it. That evening, she taped a new sign to our front door. In her careful 9-year-old handwriting. "Respect lives here. Enter if you have it." Neighbors smiled when they saw it. Other parents asked where the phrase came from, and Nyla would explain matter-of-factly. "My family taught me that some people think they can do anything to kids, but they can't. Not if you build good fences." The doorbell rang. Through the window, I saw Darius holding flowers and Walter carrying what looked like homemade cookies. Our chosen family had arrived for dinner. If this story reminded you why protecting children comes before keeping family peace, drop a comment below. I read every single one. And don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe, because stories like these need to reach every parent who's ever had to choose their child's safety over someone else's comfort. ****